How you doing?
Not good.
What's that?
That one popped off.
The cleat is
Cleat
loose.
is loose.
We hit the keel
Smashed into the key.
last night. It's not big, but it's...
You can hear it, I promise you.
This is kind of what we've been dealing with here in Gibraltar, on and off. Today it's blowing. It's actually not blowing hard at all. It's only blowing up to 30, gusting to 35 perhaps. We've seen it above 50 in the last couple of days, weeks. But where we focus our attention is back here. As you can see, as the swells come through, our davits rise and fall. We have the davits, they're adjustable. Sorry about the wind noise, I'm sure, but it's raining. But the thing that's important to us is we have to make sure these davits don't go over the concrete and hit. And what keeps happening is the way this marina is set up. In the middle of this fairway is a giant chain. We hear that it's like 12 inches in diameter or something like that, weighs tons. And the slime lines are attached to that. So the boats on the other side are attached on one side of the chain and we're attached on the other. It tends that in a blow like this, that the boats on this side will pull that chain a little bit toward us. And when that happens, our boat tends to head backwards. And we've taken about 24 inches out of our slime line since this whole process started. And really, every time there's a storm, we find ourselves moved back a little bit. But we have a couple things to go that impact the position of the boat. One of them is whether the tide is coming in or going out. When the tide is coming in, we get pushed back toward the concrete. When the tide is going out, we get pulled away as the water is leaving. Also, as the boat rocks, the bow rises and falls. It does snug up the slime line and pull us off. So there's there's a metered tide here, swing of about a meter in height. Low tide versus high tide is you know, if you really tie up the boat tight at high water, it gets loose at low water, and if you tie it up tight at low water, it really probably is not good for the cleats and the fair leads, because it really starts stretching the boat and giving it almost, the lines become bar tight, and you don't want that.
It's all mashed up.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, you don't see it at once.
Yeah, the davits got ripped off. Heading for Ceuta in Spanish Morocco. A little bit right across the Strait of Gibraltar, so we got lots of AIS targets to keep an eye out for. But otherwise, pretty smooth sailing. Seeing about 15, 16 knots of wind, pretty steady. And everything's working well so far.
feels good to be back on the water.
Doesn't it though? This is our first time out in months. Picked a nice day for it. There's the Rock of Gibraltar we're leaving. Never did make it to Europa Point, unfortunately. Seeing 30 knots of wind, we've reefed the sails down.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Got a little Irish pedigree on it.
I need a little bit more luff tension on our jib, on our Genoa. We've got a little knot here when we went to reef. We ended up losing control of the sheets a little bit. But I'm going to let it go until we get in the lee of Africa. But this is good. This helps us. And 6.9 knots is not bad for having half of our sails out right now. We have heavily reefed our Genoa, and we've heavily reefed our main. We're really basically running about half of our sail area and doing really wonderful time. We're at cross. We're not getting a whole lot of help from the current, or the current also is not hurting us. So we're just this is pure boat speed right now.
Damn a frogger.
Seeing 31 knots there on the anemometer. Predicted to be 15. This is how it goes around here.
Ceuta. Morocco. Some dragons?
This is cool. The Portuguese originally conquered the area of Ceuta, and then later the Spanish took it. And so it's very Catholic. Very Catholic with a strong Muslim presence, Islamic North African presence.
What's Kevin doing? I bet he's eating.
So this is what tapas in Europe, in the Spanish areas, are like. I mean, it's they're actually sizable meals. We ordered. This is a barbecue rib dish. And this is sirloin with 3 sauces. And we also had some a hot dog with curry, which is interesting,
And some chili.
and some chili. And it was really good. This is probably the cool part about doing these kind of trips is the food and the culture. Wendy and I were just talking, this place was all built by hand, 1500s. Think about the amount of labor. I mean, it's been added onto. These bricks are obviously not original, but well, maybe they were, who knows. But they dug this out. Dug out the isthmus and filled and built this huge fortification. Well, this is just kind of getting ridiculous. We've been dragging our slime lines, 3 of them so far, and we're tied off to this adjacent boat, which is apparently abandoned, but it does have good, strong slime lines holding it on, and we're just our boat already hit the dock on the back, and the guys who work here just kind of shrug their shoulders. They're just kind of security people, and it's truly unbelievable. Everywhere we go, we just get beat on by the weather, and the weather forecast is changing to be this weather for the next 3 days, and I just don't know what to do. The lines are not strong enough here. The concrete blocks are not heavy enough for all the weight that's being put on them, and the marine is not even full. It's not even half full. It looks like the rain is eased off, but we're still seeing wind speeds gusting up into the 40s. All right, now let's talk a little bit about med mooring, because it's something that you have to do when you're in Europe. And as you can see, our boat is not straight on this dock, not at a perpendicular angle. And the reason is because we've dragged the giant concrete blocks up there, because the wind has been gusting. I saw a gust up above 50 knots last night. And we actually went back into the dock, and you can see a scuff on the back of the transom here on the gel coat, and that happened because the entire boat was shifting. We eventually were able to find that there was another slime line. Slime lines are like this. You pull this up, and it eventually leads to a much larger line, mooring line. They call them slime lines. You can see how loose that slime line is at the front of the boat, and that's because we've moved again, and I'm going to need to tie that up some more. What we have going on is we've got a crisscross going on behind the boat to try to keep the stern from moving from side to side. We have one spring line on this side. We don't have one on the other because we're really kind of trying to keep this side of the boat from moving away. What we've done is, with these 2 pieces of Dyneema, a little bit of extra from one of our halyards, and this is a spare halyard. We've got lines, Dyneema lines, run to rolling hitches, which allow us to crank in on these slime lines. So you could start your engine and push forward and loosen all your stern lines, but it's really just easier to go at it this way. This other one over on this side is holding a bit better, but you can see this rat's nest of it's broken or been cut by a prop, and they've just kind of tied it back together. Now here's the third thing, and this is really what's been saving us, is we've kind of tied off to this derelict boat, and generally speaking, it's not cool to do this, to without permission go in and go onto someone else's boat. But in our case, this was an absolute emergency last night, and as you can tell, this boat has been dismasted. It used to be a ketch, and now it's a sloop. So I suspect the owners of this boat have kind of thrown the boat here and gone home to try to, decide what they want to do with their cruising plans. Because right now this boat's not going anywhere. It's got the teak decks are destroyed. You can see where they've been kind of screwed down here and there. I suspect it's very wet inside. These scratches along the side are obviously not from us. They have some pre-existing damage, and so it's this. The real issue here in Ceuta, Spanish Morocco, is that over there is not deep enough for our boat. This is the only area along this wall here, and this is really the only spot that has a decent dock. They had us down there at the end of the dock, in that spot kind of where the dock ends, and I was absolutely not happy about that. And so we asked the ladies in the marina office if we could move, and they got us a guy to help us move over to here. But this is the last spot we have. Over there on the corner is listed on the charts as 0.9 meters, and we draw 2.4 meters. Although there's some question as to whether this area has been dredged. The school boats do go over there and park next to that power boat, but I suspect they only draw maybe a couple of meters. This line is kind of waxy because it's so new, and that's made it a little difficult. One of the things you want to make sure you do on these is make sure that you get a bunch of turns on these winches. If you only put one or two wraps, and then it'll put a ton of a ton of strain on the self-tailing bar and possibly break it. So you want to make sure that you're getting all the rough edges, grabbing onto the line, rough edges of the winch drum. Want to crank it in for me? What? Go ahead and crank it in. You can see what we're doing here. We're just getting it a little at a time. Okay. What are you saying? That's about all she can get. And this is dangerous. You cannot allow yourself to have your fingers taken off. Which could easily happen if you're not careful. Thank God we weren't still in this slip, this berth here, because it's maybe a little easier to see today, but that rail along the side, there's just no way to really protect against it. And then this boat, the gunnels come up so high and at such an angle, they went straight across our lifelines, and there was no matter how big a fender you put in there, you couldn't really keep that rub rail from coming over top of the lifelines. Seems like these guys did all right for themselves. They're out here looking at the lines the other day. And they've got a whole bunch of slime lines. That's probably what we could have done. We probably could have run a slime line to our midship cleat, the one that was too far forward. I'm gonna have to consider that going forward.